Hi, folks. Today is Friday, August the 16th. Larry's with us. We have 9 people with us right now, Larry, so go ahead and get
All right.
going.
Hello, folks. It is Friday. The good news is it's Friday. And Israel has made a deal with Tlaib and Omar that if they want to come for strictly humanitarian purposes to see her family, that they will let her in. But as one could have figured, of course, Tlaib rejects that offer. Look, all they want to do is make a scene and grab media. That's all they're up to. And so far, they're doing a good job of doing it. Now, before we get irate and mad, I'd like to remind everybody that this, relative to the campaign, 2020 campaign, this is good news. Because the more of this stuff they bring out, the more the focus is on them, and the more the focus is on them, the more the public is seeing that they represent the Democratic Party and that they are crazy, as is, of course, the whole Democratic Party. When I say crazy, they're crazy in that they're all about socialism. I did not see his speech last night, but I have seen a couple of clips, and I'm very proud to say that he stayed with making the correlation that if you vote for a Democrat, you're voting for socialism. And that's what we want. And Tlaib and Omar and AOC, they are proving that point. So in a way, you need to kind of root for them so that we keep it up and keep it going. So don't be deceived. Does everybody kind of get where I'm coming from on that?
I imagine so, Larry. We've got 19 people here. Nobody's chatting yet, but except for one says hello, Larry. Linda says those two are trying to jeopardize our relationship with Israel. Is that possible? They can see through what that whole thing is about, can't they? Can't Israel see? Larry? Oops, we lost him. Okay, he'll call back in just a minute. I heard somebody talking in the background, so he probably had to deal with something. I don't expect that our relationship with Israel will be jeopardized that much because Netanyahu certainly knows where Trump stands in support of Israel. And he has heard where Trump stands with the squad of 4. So, yes, we copy. Crazy. We thank you. 10-4, good buddy to you. Thanks for being here, folks. We're up to 26. This is good. Can Trump stop Soros? While I'm waiting for Larry. No, because he's an American citizen, so he's allowed to donate wherever he wants to donate. Remember, anything that goes legally is going to end up in a federal court, and the federal court system is totally rigged for by socialist judges. So Larry's back.
Yes, are we back?
Yep, you're back. So,
okay, I did not know when I gets knocked off, but it did, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just tried to answer the question, but I'll let you add to it. Can Trump stop Soros?
No. No, he cannot. I think you should understand that for him to do anything through the courts, of course, is blocked from day one get-go. For him to do anything, as we talked yesterday, with any kind of executive action, that will be blocked by the court. So no.
And there was a question that I also tried to answer for you while you were gone. Can Tlaib and Omar jeopardize our relationship with Israel if they end up going over there?
Can they what?
Can Tlaib and Omar jeopardize the relationship between Israel and the U.S. if they
Yes.
visit?
Well, not if they go, not by the act of going over there. They certainly increase the tension. But what they're doing jeopardizes our image in the Middle East. And I assure you folks, what scares me about what they're doing, which is why typically it is illegal or wrong, maybe not illegal, but certainly through the rules of conduct of members of Congress, you don't do stuff like this. You don't function behind the president's back. The reason I say that is, think about it. If you're Iran or any of the other countries in the Middle East that hate our guts, they believe that since Omar and Tlaib feel the way they do, that the public opinion in America towards Israel is changing. And they will use that to their advantage, to our detriment and Israel's.
So Iran will be told, probably, I guess, through CNN, that these two represent the public.
Right. As far as they know, as far as they hear from the media, golly, it looks like Israel's relationship with America is getting bad. When United States Congress people start breaking from Israel, that's a bad sign for Israel in the Middle East. It looks like America's breaking from them. Very dangerous. A very dangerous move. Very dangerous. And of course, they don't care. They really don't care. They really have, number one, Tlaib and Omar are Muslims. They're Muslims. Give them credit for one thing, they at least are publicly showing what they believe. There are others, believe it or not, in Congress that have as much or more hatred for Israel as they do. They just keep it hidden. What else you got?
Will voter fraud be fixed before the next election? There's a difference, Stompin' Warrior.
Talking about election fraud. Election fraud will be monitored closely. Trump has a special unit that will be.
Are you still there? What happened? Larry? Don't know what happened, folks. Are you back? We can hear you coughing. Give him a minute, folks. He's having a rough day. He hasn't gotten any funding to help with his health issues. So we need to. All right, you there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I've got you here now.
I don't either. You might explain. What I was asking is for you to explain to the listeners for me the difference between election fraud and voter fraud.
Sure.
One more time.
Sure. Election fraud is fraudulent hacking and so on with the machines. So, for example, in 2016, friends of ours, they would put in a vote for President Trump for president, and the machine flipped it to Hillary. And they went to the election judge and said, hey, this machine isn't working. The judge came over. The same thing happened again. That's why we need to have paper ballots. And paper ballots have to be available at every precinct, because in case there's somebody who can't use the machine for some reason, or the electricity goes out, they have to have paper ballots there as backup. So that's the way to go. Voter fraud, on the other hand, is where somebody votes multiple times. They vote when they are not allowed to vote. They are voting in the wrong precinct, and they're not registered to vote. So the voter fraud has to do with what people do. The election fraud has to do with the machines.
Yes. Simply stated, election fraud is institutional. That's the system is rigged. As Mary Ellen told you, voter fraud is individuals when they vote several times or whatever. And if you're not careful, the reason I wanted Mary Ellen to point this out is because if you're not careful, the media plays games with that. So when somebody's talking about election fraud, broad-based election fraud nationwide, they'll come up and you'll hear them say, well, we checked and we only found 6 people, only 6 people or some small number that were actually caught voting multiple times. So you see, therefore, it's not a big deal. Well, what they did was, with a sleight of hand, they twisted you around. We were talking about election fraud, and they changed it to voter fraud. Voter fraud, typically, in a national election, voter fraud will not have that great of an impact. There'll be some of it, there shouldn't be, there will be some, but not enough generally in a general election nationwide to affect the outcome. But election fraud can rig it quick.
Now, where does it fall when you're talking about illegals being registered to vote, like we have the problem in California?
Well, illegals, by law, in a federal election are not allowed to vote. So what states like California apparently is planning to do, I don't know if they're doing it, but they're planning it, so I'm told, they are fixing it where illegals can vote. But they can only vote technically in state and local elections if they have the proper laws in those states to allow it. The problem therefore becomes somebody would have to sit at where the votes are tallied and go through every vote so that when there is an illegal voting, you know it's an illegal voting, so therefore you strike their vote for the national election. But guys, that's impossible. That's impossible. Number one, it's not going to say on the ballot, are you legal, are you here illegally? So this is a very serious scam California is setting up, and I hope, and there's going to be other states follow suit if they're allowed to get through it and pull it off. That's why President Trump talks so hard, as should you, as should everybody, about voter ID. When they come in to vote, if they're illegal, they have to show a picture of themselves connected to some relevant document, like a driver's license or something showing their connection to an address that is allowed to vote in the precinct they're in. That's why the Democrats are opposing photo ID so stringently. They know what I just told you. If they can keep from having voter ID, they know they've got several hundreds of thousands, if maybe not millions, of people that they may be able to convince to go vote. Am I still with you? I couldn't tell if I lost you or not.
No, you're still here. I mean, that's what Obama did. He said, doesn't matter, just go vote.
Well, the problem, they can say, look, people, they compare photo ID to the old poll tax. Poll tax used to be where before you could vote, you had to show you had paid your taxes. At least that's the way it was in Arkansas. That was outlawed. Voter ID is one of the reasons the Democrats want that border open, because they see millions of people coming in to vote that are here illegally. Now I'm going to tell you something. Maybe I shouldn't, but I think it should be told. I am recommending, maybe you'll hear about it from the administration's campaign, that since there is such a potential for illegals to come vote, certainly in states where there's no photo ID or other verification, that there will be Border Patrol agents working at precincts so that if they see someone that is here illegally, they will arrest them on the spot.
How will they know?
Well, I'm not going to give away their tactics or whatever.
But they have them.
Let me just say to all people that you talk to that might actually talk to illegals, that might be persuaded to show up and vote, they better be careful, because there may be a Border Patrol agent or an ICE agent or some other law enforcement agency person there with a specific function of finding illegal people, and they will be arrested and picked up. Now, if that word gets out broadly enough, it can go a long way to stop the Democrats' plans, because they're not going to have a lot of illegals that are going to risk getting caught just to go vote. So that's why I say I hope the Trump administration heeds some advice and starts talking about that. Now, have I done a good enough job explaining y'all? Because you need to explain to the soft base, the people you're supposed to talk to or trying to get you to talk to. They need to understand the importance of voter ID, and they must understand the possibility that if illegals are allowed to vote, in other words, if there's no voter ID, then illegals can come in and claim they're Larry Nichols in my precinct and vote in my place.
Illegals are going to vote in somebody's place?
Mm-hmm.
How can they do that?
The Democrats will take care of that. They will skim the precincts, they'll skim the districts, the voting areas, and they will have a list of all the people in the district. And they will assign illegals names to go in and be. They'll have them on a piece of paper.
Now, is that how we end up with multiple voting sometimes? That
is. So, for example, if they go in and they vote for me, and I go in and vote, they're going to find that there are two people vote, or that Larry Nichols voted twice. And in most cases, they would pull my vote and the other vote. But y'all don't realize the low voter participation in America. There will be 10 times more people that they go in and claim they are and vote in their place than there will be people that they go in and claim they're voting in their place and the other person votes as well. Remember, we're lucky to get 40% of the voting population to vote. So there's 60% of every district out there, 60% or better, maybe even or worse, but not much worse, 60% of the people out there that are not going to vote. And their names are up for grabs.
And
all the Democrats have to have is just a list of who everybody in that voting precinct is.
Well, and they also know the ones that haven't voted before, because that'll show up on the list.
Right. That's right.
And what about they'll be using dead people's names and expecting that the elderly can't get out, so that they'll be voting for them.
There'll be all manner of that things, and it'll all be done through illegals.
Which is why it's so important, if you are elderly, to make sure you get an absentee ballot. You can do that with a phone call and just go to your board of elections. You can go to their office and get an absentee, or you can do a phone call and have them mail you one, or you can do an email and have you mail you one. The other thing, folks, that we can do is we can go and get, there is something you have to do training wise, but you can go to nursing homes and help people fill out their ballot. And so, especially if you live in a red area, get those in. And that's why we should vote early. No more waiting till the last day. We need to be the first to go and vote. So if somebody else comes in and votes in our name, we've already been counted, right?
Yes. One of the things that is in the Democrat playbook, I know because we put it there, one of the things that's in the playbook is for them to go into nursing homes. First thing you do is you go in, you meet the director of the nursing home, get permission, and then they'll go around to all the elderly people in the nursing home and help them vote. And in most cases, what that is you have this person saying they're helping you, Mary Ellen, vote. Oh, you want to vote for President Trump? Okay, you're voting for the Democrat. You want to vote for such and such? Oh, okay, you're voting for the Democrat. And then they get them to sign the ballot.
Yep.
It's done. They do it everywhere, all the time.
And you get very few Republicans that will do that. But the Democrats, oh my goodness, when I worked the elections in 2016, I was shocked at how many Democrats were bringing in stacks of absentee ballots filled out by these, probably by them, but signed by the elderly.
Yeah. Now, when you hear the media and you hear Democrats talking about how great a ground game the Democratic Party has, you've all heard them say it. You know, boy, the Democrats have a powerful ground game. Now, you immediately think, wow, they've got all kinds of volunteers out doing stuff for the party, registering people to vote, which they do to some extent. I mean, it looks like they've got people doing stuff. Well, when you hear the word ground game for the Democratic Party, it simply means they've got all the tricks that they're planning to use. That's the ground game. And they've got strategies in every case that they can use and do use. We will deal with that. Trump's people are very aware of what all is going on, and contingency plans are being developed. That is not going to be one of yours and mine priorities. Not yet. we may end up, we may end up as we get more close to the election, depending on how it's looking, depending on what we're seeing, it may involve us going and doing poll watching, but not as yet. I intend for that duty to be laid in the hands of the Republican Party. But if for some reason I don't believe they're going to do it or not do it right, we will step in. And I have so forewarned. Anybody else?
Well, I would recommend that people contact their Board of Elections and get trained and volunteer to help with the election. You can help be a poll watcher. You can do poll watching. You don't have to have training for. You just contact the Republican Party in your precinct or in your area, your county, and you can work the election and keep an eye on what everybody else is doing. So, is there?
Well, I do have a couple of reports. Let me get them out of the way. Relative to what I said yesterday, I have heard it said, saw it flash across the screen on Fox, that Israel passed a law recently that prohibited Tlaib and Omar from coming. Folks, that is, they may have passed a law that further prevents them from coming, but that's not totally true. Since Israel became a state, became a nation, they have had a law since day one, being able to restrict anybody they choose from coming into their country if they do not recognize the existence of Israel. So don't be deceived. It wasn't something they cooked up a month ago just to say, stop Tlaib and Omar. I'm not saying they may not have twiddled with the law a little bit and added something to block them specifically, but it's been on the books in Israel since its beginning. Number one. Number two, having to do with Epstein. I saw a report. Here again, I get just pieces of reports. And it was talking about in the autopsy, I do not know if this is true, this supposedly has leaked out of the autopsy, that the hyoid bone, that's the bone near the Adam's apple, was broken. Now, guys, let me tell you, that bone typically would not break with a hanging. I'm not saying it won't ever break, but it is not as normal of an occasion with a hanging as it is with strangulation. So score one for reason to be suspect of his death being a murder or homicide versus suicide. That little bone. I understand the question about it, the way it may resolve itself or the way they'll want it to resolve itself. If they cannot satisfy people to believe that it might have been broken in a hanging, they may say that the other time when Epstein, the time before, when he supposedly tried to commit suicide, but it's confusing. He was in a cell with a big brute that supposedly beat him up. They're going to try to claim that that guy, when he was roughing up Epstein, if it happened, may have broken it, strangling him. If they tell you that, you can call them liars. Because it would be very hard for me to believe that that bone could be broken and he could walk around without somebody knowing there's a problem due to the position of that bone to the Adam's apple. If it is broken, it makes it very difficult to swallow. So, score 1 for the possibility of murder. Now, go ahead, Mary Ellen. I'm sorry. Okay, she's not here. So, it's too early for us to say with absolution that Epstein was murdered. We can't say that. So I don't want you saying that. But it is highly suspicious. Highly suspicious. And I assure you, Attorney General Barr and Durham both have made it quite clear that they intend to get to the truth wherever the truth may lie. Now, Mary Ellen may be showing her house, so we may have to do without her for the time being. But
Larry, I'm on the phone with Karen.
Oh, okay. I hope everything went okay. There is much that I've seen in President Trump's rally, what I've seen of it, that fits very much if you watch the whole thing. I hope. I haven't seen the whole thing myself. But from what I did see, he seems to be following the script that we talked about yesterday fairly closely. He is staying the course with socialism, the truth and the facts of socialism. And that's what we have to have him do. He has a much bigger platform than we do. When he conducts these rallies, it helps to spread the word. And it's something when a United States president is standing up out publicly in front of God and everybody talking about the Democrats being socialists. Ordinarily, you will see Republicans periodically in the past. They'll point out periodically that some of their plans, their agendas, their programs are socialism. But very few have ever just come right out and said that if you vote for the Democrats, you're voting for socialism. And that should help y'all know that we're on the right track and have been on the right track well before anybody else. So stay the course. Stay the course. Hold the line.
All right, I'm still taking care of this, Larry. There was a question.
Did it come to you? Did it go to you?
We've got a routing number problem, so I have to call my bank. Do you think there will be a fraudulent census, and is there a way to protect the voter box? And what happens if the election is contested?
All right. Will there be a fraudulent census? The chances of the census being fraudulent today is better. It's better for it not to be cheated because President Trump is president. He is watching the census information very closely, as most of you know. He even wanted a question on the census about whether somebody was here legally or not. I think that was what it was. But his unit that is dealing with election fraud They also are working at protecting the integrity of the census. So yes, to answer your question, yes, that is being dealt with. It is. Now, the next question was, do you think the election results will be contested? Well, guys, that's a tough one for me to answer. Because if President Trump loses, no, it will not be. Even if there will be plenty of reason and cause to want to challenge it, it will not be done. If President Trump wins in 2020, then I'm going to say today, this is today, not at the time of the election. But right now, I will say there's a 60-40 chance, most probably, that the Democrats will challenge it. They will. They are not going to let this election go if there's any way they can at all, no matter how remote it is, to make Trump lose. It doesn't matter to them. They don't care about the country. If they challenge the results of the election, if President Trump wins, they will not care what it does to the nation. They will not care what it does to the future of our children, our grandchildren, our country. They don't care about any of that. They know what I know. This is their day. This is their time, and they must win. Now, you might ask, well, why is it? You understand why it's that way for us. We've got to stop at this time because in 2024, there's going to be less of the baby boomers. Those of us old people, we're going to be gone, many of us. And the millennials are going to increase on the voting age. So you can see readily why this is it for us, but you may wonder, why would the Democrats see it as being such a critical election that if they lose, they've lost what all they've been working on for years? You would think that they would just say, well, okay, we know in 2024 there's going to be less baby boomers, more millennials, so we'll get them in 2024. Well, the reason they don't believe that, or the reason they're not willing to gamble on that, is because they know in the next 4 years of President Trump, with him being in a position where he does not have to run again, with there being a good chance if he wins that the Republicans will get not only the House and the Senate, but the presidency, but they'll get the House as well. So 4 years of a Trump-controlled legislature, things could be done to make it incredibly difficult, more difficult, if not impossible, for them ever to rise again. And President Trump is committed to making sure that if there's any way possible that he can during his time in office, he will do everything in his power to see to it that they never have this opportunity to rise again and get this close to the ultimate takeover of our nation. He's committed to that. So the Democrats have a risk in Trump winning this election. that makes them be willing to go all the way. Whatever they've got to do, they're going to do it to win this election. And that even includes, if they lose, to finding some way to challenge the election. And remember, if they challenge the election, where will it eventually end up? It'll end up in the court. And when it hits the court, we know where that is right now. So I hope I answered those for you. Mary Ellen's still working on something and waiting for any other questions that she may bring forward to us. If you notice with my voice today, I don't feel real chipper, folks, so please don't think.
Hang on, I'm still on the phone, but is someone behind the scenes running false flags? During Obama's days, there were 4 Muslims that did mass shootings. Now they're all white.
You know, I don't know that there's any organized group or thing or MK Ultra or any kind of mind control triggering these people to do these shootings. I can't say with any level of certainty. But this country is in a state of unrest more than I've ever seen it, lest it be back during the 60s and the racial riots, etc. This country's just about in 100% state of chaos. That means that nutbags are going to feel empowered. And then when you take the media stroking and stoking the flames the way they do, if anybody's behind these killings and shootings, if there's any true blame to be placed, or if there was, and I'm not saying there is, but if there is reason to place a blame, I think where I would want to see it go is to the mainstream media. They're inciting all of this. They're bringing all this out. And these white supremacist groups, they're setting out there, they're already over the edge. They're incredibly crazy in the first place. They want violence. They just need an excuse. Just an excuse. And with the way the mainstream media is portraying everything, creating this war between whites and blacks and blacks and whites and homosexuals and straights and Muslims and this, that, and the other, the way they're pitching all of these internal conflicts, that's giving license to both sides crazies, the white supremacists and the far, far left, to go nuts. And they are. You back, Mary Ellen?
I'm back. Sorry, anyhow, that was good news for you. So,
is it going to you?
Yes, sir.
All right, good.
As soon as we're done here, I can send something immediately.
That's right. That's right. Just waiting 2 or 3. What else we got in the way of questions? Sorry about this, folks. It was a very important matter.
It seems that the Democrat candidates are so bad, they're setting up someone like Michelle Obama to come in late and be their savior. And you hear the thing that Hillary's coming.
No, she's not. No, she's not. And I've told you before, but it's worth saying again. The Democrats the progressives, the globalists, the people that want to take over our nation and have spent years and years and years and billions and trillions of dollars to do it. They blame Hillary because this should be their country right now. This should be theirs. And she blew it. So she's not looked on with favor. She's not. I'm not saying they don't put somebody in, maybe, but it's not going to be her. And I assure you it won't be Michelle Obama. Michelle Obama just will be, if there is such a thing as a worse candidate than Hillary and Joe Biden, it's going to be Michelle Obama. Her arrogance glows all over her. She will never run. What else, Mary Ellen?
Yeah, Teresa wants to know, what should America do if China plans to gobble up Hong Kong?
Nothing. Number one, Teresa, America can do nothing if it wanted to. Nothing. Do y'all understand? Nothing. Nothing means nothing. There's nothing we can do. Protest it, gripe about it. And President Trump will. He will. But there is still great belief in the international community, certainly at the UN, that, guys, Hong Kong is the property of China. China has, simply by its own, for its own reasons, which I have never sat down to try to figure out, they have allowed China a certain amount of autonomy. But as it happens, and it usually does, when freedom is dished out a little bit, people want more. And when they want more, the inevitable has to come. Either they win their freedom or they are caved in on. And in the case of Hong Kong has no way to win its freedom, not from China. No way. And China has issued the Iron Fist threat. And when that threat's given in the Oriental world, it's over. If the Iron Fist is threatened, the Iron Fist will follow. So if I were any of the protesters that have been involved, and it may be thousands that were involved in these protests, if there's any way to catch a fast boat out of Hong Kong to anywhere else in the world, they better catch it. Because they will be caught. And in some way, I guess, maybe they'll have some kind of trial, mock trial, whatever. But they'll be killed. And there's nothing anybody, not us, not Russia, not us and Russia, not the UN, all of the UN, we can all come down on China. But you see, the only thing we can come down on China that would be halfway effective would be economically. But never forget, before you go huffing and puffing and saying, well, let's put the economic screws on China, let's cut their throat financially. Remember this, China is the largest holder of U.S. bonds in the world. And if they wanted to tomorrow, they could dump their bonds. They could dump them on the market at a penny or whatever they want to put them at, and would take our economy to its knees immediately. Maybe you don't understand that, when you think about President Trump and what he's doing with the tariffs. Let me tell you, he is one heck of a negotiator, probably the best I've ever seen, in that he can hold China, threaten with tariffs, and do the kind of things he's doing to get a better and more fair trade relationship, when any other president would simply bow down immediately at the fear of China cashing in and dumping bonds on the market. But this is a case where President Trump's business acumen and experience is saving us. It is. His courage, based off his knowledge and acumen, is telling him that he can play hard with China, with Xi, because he knows China doesn't need to dump all of our bonds and destroy us. Why? Because we're the major buyer of their products. So to hurt us, Trump knows, would hurt them. But you have to really know what you're doing to negotiate in the environment President Trump's in with President Xi. So give him big time attaboys for what he's doing and how he's doing it. What else, Marianne?
What would happen if the election was a tie? That's not possible, is it?
It won't happen. It will not happen. It can be close, but it won't be a tie.
Do you think Trump should put us back on the gold standard and dismantle the Federal Reserve?
This is one of those where it's my opinion, all right? And I do not propose to tell any of you I'm some kind of financial wizard, genius, or even smarter than any one of you. I'm not. But I think if it's my opinion that you want, I'll give it. I think that yes, indeed, we need to get rid of the Federal Reserve. But much thought and strategy needs to go into how we do it. It can't be something that's done overnight. We don't have the facility, for example. We don't have the way to make our own money. It will take time to get us in a position to where, as far as our currency, to where we can be self-sustained. But we need the Federal Reserve gone. And getting back on the gold standard, what we need to do is what President Trump is doing, wisely, I believe. The gold standard is good. It is. It's probably the best. If you hold a lot of gold, if you've got more gold than anybody else in the rest of the world. And I personally don't believe we do. I don't even think that there's all that gold in Fort Knox anymore. Could be wrong. I think it's been long gone. So if you don't hold the majority of the gold in the world, be careful about putting us on a gold standard. Now, if you don't put us on a gold standard, then what's the other way to strengthen us in our dollar and protect us? And it's by building America back up to what it used to be. Make America the dominant force economically in the world. When you do that, our currency is king. Our money's king. You do that, and we have to be afraid of no one. And it's a process to which President Trump has started. first off, you got to get us back where we're making stuff. We got to make it here. Then we got to buy it here from people who make it here. And we stand alone. And we stand strong. That's my opinion. What you got?
What will be Trump's first order of business if he wins in 2020?
I am informed that one of the first things he will do is fire every federal judge that he did not appoint. Even Superior Court judges. Now, there will be controversy as to whether or not he can do it, but if following the letter of the law is true, if you follow the Constitution as it's written, he has the power.
By Superior Court, you mean the Supreme Court?
Well, not the Supreme Court. Right now, he believes the Supreme Court is capable of making a fair and just decision. But like the Ninth District Court, the Ninth
Circuit,
Superior Court, Circuit Court, yes,
okay.
those judges, the ones that keep shutting everything down in the lower courts.
Okay. Couple questions, silly questions about Epstein. Did he fly to Antarctica? Do you know anything about that?
Do not.
Okay. Have you seen the picture that he supposedly has hanging in his house of Bill Clinton in Monica Lewinsky's blue dress and red high heels?
Have not, don't believe it.
Okay. The
reason I don't believe it is because I'm the guy that got the blue dress straight from the cleaners. So I know the chain of custody, as it were, of the blue dress.
Yeah, well, it's a painting, so I mean,
I know.
You don't have you can have.
I don't think
they have the painting.
Look, I assure you, I don't think. Now, he may have had a picture like that made to picket Bill. I'm not saying he didn't.
Okay.
But he would not have it hanging proudly in his office. That is a touchy point with Bill Clinton.
It's in the house, in Epstein's house. I don't
Whatever.
know. The funniest picture I saw having to do with that was a picture of Bill Clinton in the blue dress with his red pumps draped over Obama's lap in that, that professional picture that was done of Obama, the official picture with the green rose background. And then Biden is behind him, bending over, whispering in Obama's ear. That's pretty funny. So,
well, speaking of that, remember what I told y'all sometime back about the investigation that Barr is conducting in Durham into the beginning of the coup and how it started with the signature of President Obama. Remember that?
Yeah.
And that President Obama, with a document I'm familiar with, had to put in writing for Clapper and Brennan to be able to conduct this counterintelligence investigation, certainly on Americans, especially a presidential candidate at the time. They had to have it in writing, which they got. Last night, apparently, a clip came up on Fox when I was home today, and it showed Greg Jarrett. He's an attorney guy that's written a book or whatever. He's on Tucker and Hannity and them all the time. He actually said that as they were talking about this investigation going forward, that it would inevitably lead to President Obama. He said it because President Obama, just like I told y'all months ago, would have had to sign the order himself for Clapper and Brennan to have been able to go forward. So there, looks like we were right once again. I happen to know that we're right. He was saying it would have to be. I happen to know it is right. What else you got?
Is it possible to go on a silver standard versus a gold standard?
Don't know. I don't know. I don't even know what the process would be to switch standards. I guess maybe it has to go through Congress, or maybe they could pass a law, but it has to be signed off on by the president, and I don't know whether he would.
That's all the questions. It's been an hour. Folks, please hit the like button. Please share this. We have 77 people today, Larry. Please share it. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. We now have over 9,000 subscribers. So that was about 30 people joined just since yesterday. So subscribed since yesterday. So that's good. Keep that going. We need to cross the 10,000 mark. That'll be good for us. Oh, great. My agent is calling me. I have to take this call. So Larry, give your PayPal address.
All right, folks. It is Nichols live at AOL. And I'm sorry about being a little bit down today. But I will be better Monday, I hope. So with that, we'll say goodbye and good day. Have a good weekend.
I don't know what that is. I'm sorry, folks. Have a good weekend. And again, I'm just going to add Larry's PayPal is nicholslive@aol.com. Go to the website, www.nicholslive.com. Please buy the t-shirts. We just need 4 more people to order them. We place them in a bulk order. We need to have about a dozen per order. So we need 4 more, and then we can get these orders going in. So please do this. We need to get that going. Thank you very much. And order the t-shirts. There's a donate page there. There's cell phone number. If you need help doing anything, feel free to call it or text it. Rather, use the text message first, and I'll call back. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. I'm not sure which woman you're saying is all over the place. I had to run out because I have some vital things that were going on the phone that I had to do for Larry. And I'm sorry it had to happen during this program. We were trying to get things taken care of before it, and it didn't happen. And I'm sorry, James, I missed a couple of the questions. I was doing the best I could to scroll up and see that, try to make sure I hadn't missed any. I think there was one of yours I missed. I think you're right, and I'm really sorry. Forgive me. We'll do better next week. Hopefully Larry will have what he needs to get through the weekend. Thanks, guys, and we'll talk on Monday. If an emergency comes up, we'll always, retain the right to go online and be here over the weekend, but probably not till Monday. Thanks a lot. Appreciate your support. Bye.